Okay, so next we did scene 5. We looked through scene 5 initially as a class, and we figured out that this was probably going to be one of our hardest scenes. There's the most going on, and there's a lot of relevance and interaction between characters that's quite important. This is the scene where Anna's got her huge monologue, and Carol is repeatedly saying a baby. It's the first interaction between Emma and Carol. Emma is who I am playing in this scene. The first interaction between Jamie and Anna, and then in Bonnie's side it's Bonnie and Tim. Tim isn't as much of an important character, but it still shows Bonnie's workings, how she's a little bit slightly like autistic in her interactions, and she's not so socially aware. And so this is an important scene in that effect, because I feel like it shows the effect of each, and the main feeling of the play, the effect of each person generation on the other. So initially we looked at the scene separately again. So the one between Carol and Emma. Carol and Emma show quite a contrast, because Carol I feel like is not really in her time. She's a bit ahead of her time. She's not a typical housewife, whereas Emma is. I get the impression that Emma wants to be middle class, but isn't. She cares about John, her brother, a lot, and she sort of holds this sort of grudge against Carol for putting John through so much. She knows what it's like to have a baby because she has Daisy, her child herself, and I think she's trying to make things better. She's trying to help, but she can't get over the fact that she really doesn't like Carol, and she goes to see her at the hospital because nobody else will, and probably John is, because he does later on in the scene, but it's sort of like a woman going to see a woman, and she should be a nice interaction, but it just feels this sense of sort of awkwardness, sort of this underlying tension. Even Carol herself points out, says to Emma, "I know you don't like me, Emma." And Emma's like, "Carol," because she doesn't like her, but it's sort of this unsaid thing of this time period as well. Then first looks as well onto the next scene, to the scene across the next generation with Anna and Jamie. This is the first interaction between those two. From first glance, there's a camera set up, they're filming Anna's story about going into rehab, and it's quite upsetting, and it's quite deep, and it's quite a struggling thing for an audience to watch, I feel. The way that it's done, it doesn't provide any juxtaposition between the three scenes. I feel like they all have that sense of feeling sorry for the main character, and this sort of morbid sort of feeling. I mean, there's a sense of hope in Anna's scene, because she's got this first cute little interaction with Jamie, and it's like this little flirty kind of business going on, and they both have this sort of feeling towards each other, and it's quite nice in that sense, the sense of hope. But there's this underlying where she's talking about serious things like injecting heroin and her drug addiction, and it's not something that's like light-hearted, and a total juxtaposition from the other scenes. In that scene, it builds initially sort of like a kind of sexual vibe, with the camera being set up and him saying, "Have you done anything like this before?" But it sort of steers away from that, and I think that's to initially show the audience that this is a little bit different. Something else is going to happen here, that this character Jamie is going to have some relevance and is a bit of an interest to Anna, and they're interest to each other. But I think that it's not, it sort of gives off that vibe at the initially, but then it tears away from that, especially when Anna is telling her whole life story, and you get that click when you realise that Carol is Anna's mom and Bonnie is her daughter. Well, you don't really know that yet, but there's hints, because if these two are connected, then these two are also going to be connected somehow. Moving on to Bonnie's side. Bonnie's side is less something to do with an important character. We've got over here Anna and Jamie, who are both quite main characters. We've got Emma and Carol, who are also quite main characters. They're all related in a way, become related in a way. But Bonnie and Tim are colleagues, And I think it shows initially how Bonnie doesn't really have anyone that she's close to. She doesn't have a lot of family. She doesn't have those sort of social skills to create this sort of bond between people. The interaction is very not emotion filled. They're talking about a girl who's died during surgery, who was only about 8, and it's sort of quite a horrible and dark topic, but Bonnie doesn't process this like a normal human being, and it shows the audience. I feel it shows the audience that she's not all normal in the sense, and in part that is because of the things that have happened in her past that she has not had a connection to. When it comes to the person playing Bonnie, I think that they've got to play it with not a lot of emotion, but sort of not an understanding that she's doing anything wrong. She knows she's not good at interacting because she doesn't go to many events, but not sort of unheartfelt on purpose. She just doesn't realise that that's what it is, almost like this autistic sort of feel to it. And I think when reading through, they showed this really well, and it did it really well. I think when concerned myself in playing scene 5, playing Emma, I think Carol's just had this freak out. She's had a baby and the nurse has tried to take the baby away and has taken it away, and Emma is not being very reassuring to Carol. So I think trying to show this, I have to be quite distant from Carol. It's all fake and her appearance is all fake, and I think when looking more into the rest of the scenes that we'll go on to, there is another scene with Emma, and I think it'll build deeper into her character. This is just the surface of her character and how she has quite a cold exterior that seems it seems totally normal and fine because that's how she shows and perceives herself. But obviously with her interaction with her husband as well, her husband was shown in scene 3 to be trying to flirt with Carol. So obviously Emma doesn't get on very well with her husband, and it's this sort of unfulfillment type thing. I think she feels quite jealous of Carol, and I think this is really relevant in scene 5. So when piecing this together, I think we're going to look at recording some of the scenes that we do. When we do it all together, recording it, and I will talk through how well or how difficult we found it, and what we thought went well, an improvement on that, when concerning how the character lines fit together.